Troy, we got you, buddy.
Yes, sir.
Hey, man, how you doing tonight?
Doing great.
I see that big old check sitting in the background. You just spent it all yet?
Not yet. My wife's working on it though.
Chris is trying to build y'all up here. He'll get you on here in just a second.
All right.
Man, I like I say, I really appreciate you coming on. I know it's been probably pretty busy. You've been on several other podcast shows talking about your win. Congratulations to you on that. And
Thank you.
let's talk a little bit about it. Let's talk about. We're just going to jump right into it because I want to talk to you about something else that's not fishing related towards the end here. But let's talk about your practice down there on Table Rock. I mean, Table Rock can be known to be a kind of a difficult fishery sometimes, you know. So let's talk about your practice. And did you have a good practice going into it?
Well, I really did. Brian Hillman and I, one of the members of our club, one of the guys that got me started in this, we went up the James River because typically in the fall, actually just about any time of the year, the James River is where you're going to win your tournaments from, and you're going to catch some largemouth up there. So we tried that. We went up uh, as far as almost as far up as you could go within the boundaries of the tournament, and immediately at the ramp you could see good watercolor, lots of shad, lots of activity, fish busting everywhere. So that got your heart racing as soon as you launch. So uh, we found about 78-degree water, and at that time that was Wednesday, and it was about 95 degrees by about 10:30, 11 in the morning. So uh, if you look at the practice and you look at what kind of weather was facing us for the tournament, it was completely different. So I couldn't really factor the weather that day into what was going on. But immediately I started catching fish on a rattle trap and a chatterbait, but they were all that 15, 17-inch range. I did hook into a giant that straightened to hook out on a rattle trap.
Mm.
Never got to see it. And it was in shallow water on a flat, and so I don't know if it could have been a carp. I have no idea. But it was a big fish. Uh, but fished around there for about 4 or 5 hours until it got too hot. Caught some 15-inch largemouth and some spots. Saw some pretty nice fish busting on shad. Couldn't get those to bite. So I was a little uneasy about it. So I decided to go to a different part of the lake that I'd found on a map study the next day on Thursday. And this is in the Long Creek area near the 86 bridge around the 3 mile marker. And I hadn't fished there since I was 10 years old. My aunt Benita, Uncle Butch, took me to a little place called Jellystone Park back when I was about 10, and we fished there and went to Taneycomo, had a great time. But I hadn't fished it since then in tournament or fun fishing or anything. But what caught my eye was a channel swing bank, access to deep water, lots of little cuts to fish, and some islands. I had all kinds of things to fish, enough to pack in for a full 8 hours of fishing. That I could really work. I could go deep or shallow. There was all kinds of things there, and the watercolor was great. Table Rock is typically very clear. You can see in 15 plus a lot of the time. In this area, we had about 3 foot of visibility, and I found out why the visibility was like that as I was fishing on the first day. There was a lot of ski boats in that cove,
Oh yeah.
and they were churning up the shallow water. So uh, practice day on Thursday. I'm sorry, on Friday. Let's see. No, I didn't practice on Friday. On Thursday, I started off catching a 17-inch smallmouth on a jig. Picked up the whopper plopper and fished it for about 3 more hours and had about 84 inches in practice
Mm.
by about 10:30 in the morning. And I said, I know where I'm going to fish on Saturday. So uh, Friday rolls around and I had a bunch of errands to run. Had to get ready for the tournament. I was helping provide some of the food. And so we brought all that down, got checked in, met some of the KBF officials, and went home and got ready. So practice was good. I had
Yeah.
a good practice.
Yeah, and that's that's cool that you kind of you didn't go lean on Friday because
Yeah.
I see that a lot with people posting pictures, on Facebook. Man, I think I got it figured out, and they're showing all these big pictures of fish and all that. And I'm like, man, that's like the day before the event. You're just really leaning on them fish, and then the
Yeah, I
tournament
mean,
goes on, they ain't got nothing. So,
my heart kind of sank. I caught a 20-incher at about 10:30 in the morning,
uh,
20 and a half inches. I was like, please come back
yeah,
Saturday or Sunday or both.
yeah, That
She had a whopper plopper, and she was out on the island, so I had that island kind of in my back pocket going into Saturday morning.
yeah. That happened to me down at the KBF National Championship. I've told this story before, but I ended up hanging into finally found a spot where we caught some fish. We've been fishing for a while, we couldn't catch nothing big, and I finally found a spot that looked good.
Mm.
And I flipped a Texas rig over there and caught one. It was like 645 or something like that. And it was like 20. I can't remember how long that thing was. It was like 22, 23 inches long. And I'm like, oh gosh, we didn't figure them out. And I
Yeah,
went, but
just
it
break
made
your
me
heart.
sick to catch it. I'm like,
Hmm.
but I haven't got hardly a bite on anything there for a while. So I was like, whatever hits, I'm just gonna set the hook, and had to be that. But I come back there and flipped right over in that same spot, and the next day for the tournament, and that thing said thunk, and I was like, oh, you got to be kidding! And it was a 14 incher. I'm
Oh,
like, I'm like, man, but
and if that fish would have gotten off, it would have been that 5 pounder.
yeah, exactly right. So that's how it goes, man. But no, so you had a good practice. So going into day one, you knew where you wanted to start. You
Yes,
knew
sir.
what you wanted to start with.
Hmm.
Did it happen fast for you with your bites and getting your limit?
Yes, the bites happened quickly. My execution did not happen very well. I lost my first four fish on the plopper
Oh
and
yeah,
a little yellow magic popar on that island. And the first one, I had it up to the boat and it got off, and it was well over 15 inches. It was solid. It was still pretty dark at that time, so I don't know if the low lie they couldn't. I was throwing that. I think it was the 90.
hmm,
It's about 3.5 inches long. There's a picture on my Instagram, but um, it seemed like they were hitting it short
yeah,
early in the day, and so you lose your first four fish, and I just wanted to get the skunk out of the boat. So I headed to the North Shore, still had the plopper on, and I caught about a 14 or 15 somewhere around that, pretty shallow, and got that one on the board, and got in the tournament, and so that kind of settled my nerves a little bit.
yeah.
So then this was Saturday. Yes, okay, Saturday morning. It's been a week. I can't hardly remember what happened yesterday. So still had the plopper on, and I had a limit of about 84 inches by 10 o'clock in the morning. And so that was all on the whopper plopper, and it was all shallow. I was sitting in 3 to 5 feet of water, throwing up to no water. And it was like they would hit it, or I would cast it out there and let it hit the water. The ripples would clear. And if they didn't hit it by the time the ripples would clear, I'd twitch it a couple times like a prop bait,
hmm.
and they'd nail it.
Wow.
I hardly got any of them as I was reeling on the first day. It was always, chugging it a little bit.
Yeah.
But so, you're sitting there 84 inches, and in like second place, Table Rock. It's a KBF event. It's our Missouri State Championship. Life can't get any better, right? So I go out to that cut that I found that had the channel swing on it, and it was a main lake point, had some cedar trees on it, and some shelf rock sitting in about 10 foot of water, and it would drop off down into 25 to 30 feet of water, and just beautiful. Had a little bit of wave action on it, but I was pretty well protected from the wind. Now, on Saturday, we had about 20-mile-an-hour winds, so being on that south bank was helpful because it was
Yeah.
blowing right over our heads, or my head. And so at this point, I tied on a 3/4 ounce football jig, and I threw it up on top of that 10-foot flat, and immediately got a 17, 18-inch smallmouth.
Mm.
And so that got me up to like 90 inches or something. It got me close to that 90-inch mark, and now I'm in first place, and it's like 10, 15. So I I kind of ease back off of that flat a little bit, and I work it a while, and I'm getting bites, and I look down at my graph, and it's just lit up in that 25-foot range, just all kinds of dots. There's so many fish here, and they're all hungry, they're all feeding. So I I'm in it's heaven, but I'm afraid that I'm going to wear this out, or I'm going to overfish it. So all these things are going around in my mind. What do I do? I've never been in this position on Table Rock before.
Yeah.
In a 2-day tournament, no less. So um, I cast up to the seam where the shelf rock goes off into some roll offs. I work the jig down that, and I catch a 17-inch largemouth. So I'm like 91 inches now or something.
Hmm.
And I'm thinking, and then again, those thoughts go through your head. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? I thought, I'm like, the fish are here. They're hungry. Let's feed them. So,
Yeah.
so I made one more pitch up to the base of this dead cedar tree. It was in about 10 foot of water. I pulled it off that ledge, and it fell down into 30 feet. And at the bottom of that was about a 6.5 pound bass.
Hmm.
And I fought her. She came up out of the water, tail walking, and I'm just inside. I'm yelling. I'm doing an Ike on the inside, but on
Yeah.
the outside, I'm just like, please, just get in the net. So I pull her out to deep water and let her tire herself out. She does several runs, just surging down deep and coming back up, and finally get the net under. And I'm just like, what is going on? Now I've got over 94 inches on day one, and in a kayak, 20-mile-an-hour wind. That just doesn't happen on Table Rock or hardly anywhere. So I was feeling very blessed after day one.
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely. I mean, and going into day two, that now you can hammer 'em, and but I know that thought's still going through your head as you're coming in. Like, did I have enough? Should I caught more? Because you just don't know what other people are doing towards the end of the day, sandbagging and all that. So, when you came in going into day two, you knew you had the right spot because I mean, most times you get 90 some inches, you get high 80s to 90 inches, you've got the right stuff.
That's right.
You just got to
That's
make
right.
sure the bites hold up. So going into day two, did you have to change up much of your presentation, or is it still kind of the same deal?
Well, I was pretty much restricted to only being able to throw the plopper because the wind was 30,
Oh yeah.
29 mile an hour out of the south on Sunday. Excuse me. So I I started off the day and I fished an area that I hadn't fished day one. I went further back into the creek and I couldn't get any love back there. So it seemed like they were coming in for that fall transition, and they were all at the outer third of Clevenger Cove,
Hmm.
and they were coming up out of that deep water. Almost every fish I caught was real white. So they were coming out of deeper water. And typically, a green fish on Table Rock is just painted up pretty green and black back, and a lot of these were white.
Yeah.
It seemed like. So I had the plopper on, and it was slower in the morning, slower bite, fighting the wind, and I had 32 inches. I had an 18-incher and a 14-incher by about 9:30, and I had a bit of a lull there, so I checked the score. And on the Missouri State side, I was doing great, but on the KBF side, I had zero. So I had to check my email, and find out what was going on. And I had to
Oh.
DQ both my fish. They DQ'd both of them because I had written the identifier down incorrectly. So
Oh
I'm
no.
sitting there at 10:30 in the morning, and now I'm at zero on the KBF side, and I've got two fish on our Missouri State side. So now I've got to catch five more keepers to try to stay in this thing.
Oh.
And so my heart, you go through all those emotions,
Yeah.
just angry at yourself, angry at all the cheaters that made you have to write something physically on a card.
Yeah.
You, you're angry, but you've got to. All I could think was, I'm in an area with a lot of fish that are hungry, and we got this front coming in. Clouds are rolling in. Um, they'll eat it. They'll eat this plopper if I get it in front of their face. So I just hammered down, and I just kept throwing that plopper. I just kept throwing it. So immediately after I had a little talk with myself, I got a 15.5 incher on one side of this cove, went over to the other side of the cove, another 15 incher. And this one cove on the outer third of the lake was pretty much all I could fish for the next 2 hours because the wind was so bad. Even
Oh.
trying to get out of that cove, it was pushing me out into the main lake where there was 3 foot rollers, and
Oh yeah.
it was bad. So I did that for the next couple hours. So at this point, with those two 15-inchers, I've got four fish on the Missouri State side, and I've got two on the KBF side. So I fish a little bit longer, and I hook up with a 14-incher, and that's five fish. I got me a limit on the Missouri State side, and I'm feeling pretty good about that. Well, they shut the leaderboard off, so I'm kind of in the dark. I have no idea what's going on anywhere else. So now I've got three fish KBF side. I've got a limit on the other side. I can relax a little bit there, but I have about 2 hours left to fish, and the wind is just crazy. So I look over to the North Shore, and I want to get over there really bad because the waves have been crashing against that shore all day long. And I know that there are feeding fish over there. The water's clouded up. The bait fish have been pushed up there. If I can just get over there. And about that time, the skies started to darken, but the wind died, and we had a pretty nasty storm coming.
Mm.
So I pedaled as fast as I could in the Hobie, got over there. I'm in about 4 feet of water, and I'm getting pushed down the bank, and I'm throwing the plopper as shallow as I can get it, and I throw it to the base of a willow tree, and I pull it about halfway back to the boat, and I finally get one of those bites as I'm reeling it back to the boat. 18-incher jumps out of the water and just rockets, and I boat flip that fish, and it's still pretty green, and it's flopping everywhere, and those hooks are just flashing everywhere. I I have no idea how I missed getting a hook somewhere in me. So I got her on the board. Now I've got 4 fish. I need one more fish to seal the deal. It was I had no idea, how close it was until I got back to the oars and found out if I hadn't done in the next 10 minutes what happened. I went down the bank, put the power pole down, started fan casting in the back of this cove. The wind was pushing me, and I got a 14-incher, and that sealed the deal. And I
Wow.
had about 20 minutes left to fish. So at that point, I'm just thank you, Jesus.
Yeah.
Thanking, just thankful that I didn't turtle out there in those waves, and I was able to hang on and do what all the guys in the club told me I could do the night before. You can do it, just don't give up. So
Yeah. And that's awesome when you got guys backing you like that. That's the amazing thing about fishing in general. People talk about the bass boat side or how the kayak side is so much better and everybody's, but I fish both sides. I fished them both. And when you got a good group of guys that you hang out with, you travel with these events and all that, they back you,
yep,
and you back
absolutely,
them when they're having a good event, you back them. So,
yep,
um, that's the kind of support you need when you're out on the road or out of these events, and because your family's always going to support you.
mm,
They're always there for you, but when you got other people too that's supporting you and saying, hey, we believe in you, it just makes it that much better. So
absolutely. We got a great club, Moyak, uh, wonderful club. Josh Booth does a great job putting on a great series. Can't wait till next year. We got some great things happening. We're going to do a team trail. We're going to do a benefit tournament for veterans. It's going to be an awesome year next year. I can't wait to see what happens. We had over 100 members this year. I'm hoping for 200 next year.
oh wow. Now do y'all have that many at the I know you get a lot of members, but do you have how many do y'all have at an event? So
So we'll average 40 to 50
oh
this year.
wow.
We did
That's
at the
good.
national at the Missouri championship, Missouri State Championship. I think we had about 43 or 4 anglers, and then KBF side had closer to 50, I believe.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. I like seeing other KBF stuff's great, but I love seeing these clubs growing, and
Yeah.
I fish the Virginia Kayak Bass Challenge run by Casey Reed, and
Okay.
he's from what I didn't fish it when it started, but just the last 2 years that I fished it, see what it's growing to. It's just cool to watch these clubs growing, and it kind of reminds me back like the Federation days of bass, when I used to fish that stuff, and seeing all these different clubs come together. So, but you won the Missouri, was it the Missouri State Championship too? Is that
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
so?
Yep.
I mean, you just had a phenomenal day. Walked away with some good money, and.
Yeah, it was a great weekend. Won by 14 inches on both sides. I believe 14. Yeah, I think it was right at 14 inches on both sides,
Yeah.
and that's pretty good on with the caliber of kayak anglers that we're fishing against. But I think we had guys from 12 states. We had a fellow drive from Wyoming. We had Colorado,
Wow.
Nebraska. Marty Hughes came down from Nebraska, and there was Iowa, Illinois, DJ Williams. We had Arkansas guys come up. It was great. It was a great turnout.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about you talked about a water plopper, and I'm a big fan. Chris loves the water plopper now. We put him on the river the other week.
Yep.
Oh,
Loves the water plopper. Now we throw the 90 a lot because we catch a lot of smallmouth
hmm
on the James. And it's funny because you're talking about the James River. We have a James River here as well, here in
hmm
Virginia. We fish the upper part of the James, like around Big Island, Lynchburg, all that stuff. But for the smallmouth around here, they just flat out hate that thing, and they hit it with a vengeance. Like they are on a mission to kill that thing. And
Do you find that they miss it a lot?
yes, they do.
Yeah.
They miss it. They miss it a lot. And something I've learned too, certain topwater baits like poppers and Czar spooks, if they miss it, you can go in with a follow up bait and I can catch them. But something about a whopper plopper, it's like a one and done deal. Like
Hmm.
I can't. Every time I miss one and I throw a Cinco in or a fluke, trick worm, whatever, I just cannot get them to commit to it. Like you would. Now, if you go to Bugs Island, I'm throwing a buzz bait or a spinner bait, and they hit it and miss it, I can throw a follow up bait and catch one. But I cannot do that with a whopper plopper, and it burns me up with it.
Yeah.
But that's what I was going to ask you. Normally, and I might be catching you off guard here, but we do an in-depth segment, and I want to talk to you since we're talking about the whopper plopper, and you won it off that bait. What's your setup with that? I mean, when it comes to line, rod, and reel, all of that.
Sure. So I've got that on a I think it's a 611 blackout by 13 fishing. I've got a Daiwa TPS reel. I think that's about a 8 1-to-1, or it's a high 7. It's a pretty fast retrieve.
Yeah.
And then I'm using 25-pound trick fish uh, monofilament on that, which a lot of guys will like to use braid.
Mm-hmm.
Something about my hook set and monofilament, and then playing them at the kayak, it lends itself better to mono for that bait for whatever reason.
Well, and I think a lot because I started doing that with mono as well. I was throwing mono for a while, but with me throwing it in the river and the rapid so much, I went with braid just because the way smallmouth hit. I feel like the mono I was losing it, but if you're in calm water, I think it's great because you got that stretch. You're not jerking it out of their mouth, and they're having a chance to take it and get that lure in their mouth before you start laying into the hook set. So
yeah, most of the time there's a jump and then there's a hook set.
yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, and that's what I just wanted to see what the differences were. Now, when it comes to hooks, do you keep the factory hooks on, or do you make any changes?
No, I keep that on there. I did try using heavier hooks one time, and it seemed like it made the bait go lower than it should in the water.
Yeah.
So I just keep those stock hooks sharp. If I do straighten one out, I'll replace it with something as close to the original as I can to keep that weight the same.
Yeah. Now, something I know what I've done that's helped my hookup ratio. When we had John Cruz on one time, he was actually talking about, if the fish hit it, but you can't keep them on, they actually go down to a smaller hook sometimes. But
Okay.
I have changed all mine to the Mustad triple grips, same size,
Okay.
but just went to the triple grips. And it seems like my hook ratio went up so much better. Now, when I went to the Whopper Plopper 75, I was like I was starting back at ground zero again. I just can't keep fish on that bait. I don't know what it is, but are you throwing the 90 or are you throwing a little bit the bigger bait? The 100.
I'm throwing. I can't remember what it is. It's It's the T1000. It's got that little bit of a belly on it. It's not the straight cigar.
Yeah.
One. It's got a little bit of a belly, and it's not the little bitty one with the belly.
Yeah.
Well, they have like 6 or 8 of them.
Yeah.
And for the life of me, I tried to go to Tackle Warehouse and several websites. I could not find a chart that has all the different sizes with the numbers right next to them. They need somebody on their website crew needs to get that hooked up.
Yeah, exactly. So you can see what you're getting. Yeah, it's
right.
We throw the 90, and I think the next step down is the 75, and then it goes up from the 90 to I want to say it's a 100 and then a 120.
Yeah.
The 120 is a big one. I got a couple of those, and the reason why I stay away from those on the river is because the muskies. The muskies will eat that dude up. They eat the 90s up as it is, much less a bigger bait. So
steel leader, like that one.
Yeah, oh yeah. It's fun to catch them, but sometimes in the river when you especially fishing a smallmouth event, you're fighting that dude for so long.
Yeah.
And it's just you're like, man, God darn it, I got another big muskie on.
That'd tear me up. I wouldn't know what to do.
Oh yeah. Well, me and James, we fished last year. We won on the James River. Well, James won it, and I was second. No, I'm sorry. I won it, and James was second. But anyways, we get up here to our honey hole. When he catches one, it's like 40 inches long. And then I go up there the following weekend and catch one like 42 inches long.
Oh my word!
And I'm like, and it took me forever to wade out to this rock with the current. And I finally get this rock and get up on there and make a cast and hang this huge muskie. And I'm like, how in the world am I even going to get this thing back to the kayak to even get the hooks out of its mouth? But no, like I say, it was just you don't hear about many events here lately. The last couple of shows we've had on, it hasn't been with a whopper plopper. It hasn't been. It's like a Cinco or a wacky rig or, I mean, not a wacky rig, but a shaky head or something. It's been finesse style baits. It's been winning it here lately, and to hear a top water bait pretty much dominate, because a lot of times that bait doesn't dominate. It's a morning time bite or whatever,
Right.
and to make it work most of the day for you and all that, that's special on a lake.
Well, I'm a student of the sport, and I like to watch a lot of fishing. And in 2015, that's what James Watson did in the fall on Table Rock.
Yep.
He looked for big rocks, and he threw that plopper all day and got him into the Bassmaster Classic. So it's good enough for James, good enough for me.
Exactly right. And and I don't know if you follow Major League Fishing much. We watched Chris Lane. Chris Lane, what I can't remember what event it was, but he went on there, and it might have been when it was in North Carolina. And
Toledo Bend.
Yes, that's what it was on the whopper plopper.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a great bait, man. It's just just making sure you can keep them on there. I don't know, they just hit it so fast.
I bet the pros when they first got that and they knew how good it would do, I bet they tried to keep it a secret as long as they could.
Oh, I'm sure. Do we even have to produce this bait and put it out there for anybody?
Right.
Especially like Ish Monroe and Bob, Chris Lane and all of them that are on with River to Sea. So I mean, it's it's. I'm sure they didn't want that bait getting out there for a while. So
that's right.
But let's talk a little bit about your show. You was talking earlier. You have another podcast show that you do. Let's talk a little bit about your podcast show.
Sure. So I'm the director of IT for this ministry called thewarriorsjourney.org. And what that is, it's an online resource for military veterans, active duty, their families, Blue Star families, anybody that's going through life issues, whether it be separation or they're dealing with PTSD or just any kind of life issue, depression, being separated from your family, isolation issues. Our website's got resources on it that can help get you to a better place in your journey with the Lord. And so I take care of all the computers and the systems here, and we've got a staff of veterans and we have a network of volunteers all over the world. And so if somebody goes to, say, Google, and they enter a search in there about I want to kill myself, well, odds are that one of our ads is going to come up, and it's going to direct that person to our website, and they might read one of our articles or listen to a podcast or watch one of our videos and start interacting with one of our chaplains or one of our volunteers, and we'll try to get them into a local church or get them to speak to a chaplain, do whatever we can to help them out. And we got a lot of partners in the industry that's all they do is help veterans. So that's what we
awesome,
do here,
man. And I really like what you're doing, what you're talking about, and I'm going to put a link up on our website as well.
Thank you.
That will stay at the top. That way,
awesome.
That way people can see that when they come through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who knows? They're out there having a bad day, and they're out there just looking at fishing stuff, and they come across it. You know what I mean? So,
yep.
Or more people want to get help with it. So,
yep.
I'm definitely going to put that at the top of our site. That's going to stay up at the top of our site because it's so many veterans out there, and not just veterans of the military, but also firefighters, EMTs, all that stuff that go through struggles of things that they see at their job.
That's
so,
right.
So we want to help support you the best we can on that, and I like seeing, like, we helped sponsor a Heroes on the Water event a couple weeks ago.
Great organization.
And yes, and it's just amazing how well those events do at just turning people's life around sometimes.
Yep.
If they can just save one life, you know what I mean, or
right.
save one person, it's just amazing. And I love hearing all these different groups coming out that help with people. These people fought for our country, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And they deserve a lot better support than they do.
We couldn't sit here and talk about this if it wasn't for them. I give them the utmost respect and love to all of them.
Exactly. So I'll be contacting you after the show, get some more information, and I'm going to get that up on our website. And tell everybody again where they can go to find your site.
Thewarriorsjourney.org. THE warriorsjourney.org.
And then you're on iTunes as well. So is it just Warriors Journey?
The Warriors Journey podcast.
Yep. Okay. All right. So guys, make sure you go check that out and go check out. And do y'all have a Facebook page as well?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. So go on there on Facebook. I'm gonna try to put a link into the show here, so everybody can go find you on that as well. And then when it's up on YouTube, I'll have a link for your pages there as well. So
Appreciate that. Thank you.
But yeah, man, Troy, I really appreciate you coming on and looking forward to seeing. I do got one more question for you, talking about the Pro Series and all that coming up for the KBF. Are you going to participate in any of that, or are you just going to stay more towards the Trail Series next year?
Well, I did sign up. I've been in the Pro Series this year. I haven't done very well. Haven't. It's been a struggle. I went down to Texas and zeroed. Went down to the national championship and zeroed, but it was fun.
Yeah, yeah.
So my next tournament after I've got the Big Bass Bash on Lake of the Ozarks this coming weekend. That'll be a bass boat tournament, trying to win $100,000 for one fish.
Oh wow!
And then after that we've got La Crosse, Wisconsin is the Trail Championship. I'm going to go up to Mississippi River and see if I can catch some fish, and represent Missouri the best I can. And then next year I'll be in the Pro Series again. We got signed up for that. I got to get signed up for that this week.
Yeah.
So looking forward to all the things that kayak bass fishing has to offer. I know, Hobie's got some events I'm interested in. I'll give them all the love I can.
That's right. You got two great organizations that are trying to give kayak fishermen bigger events, and a great schedule, and they're doing a good job.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, if you're into kayak fishing, you want to learn, if you just want to get into tournament fishing, go on your Facebook and try to find something local. And you'll find it's so many clubs out there now, so many kayak clubs that are starting to get going, and then you can work your way up into the Trail Series and the Pro Series and all that. But if you can't find a tournament, a kayak tournament, it's something wrong. You're not looking hard enough, because there's so many great events out there now.
I had no idea. 18 months ago, I was a co-angler at the BFLs and the Costas and Bassmaster Opens, and I was getting kind of frustrated with that, and I needed to be in a situation where I could make my own decisions. Now I don't have the time. I can't go spend a week for every single tournament like some of these guys do on the pro side of those boats. But I had no idea. I started watching, Greg Blanchard's videos. I started watching Kayak Bass Fishing TV, and I was just amazed at the stability that they have now, and all of the accoutrement, all the things that you can add to it to help make you a better fisherman. And so somebody will now look at my kayak and say, well, why don't you just buy a bass boat? I say, well, I have a bass boat, but I prefer fishing out of this. It's just it's more peaceful. I feel more connected to nature, and I'm not polluting anything, and it's quieter. So I'm working on computers all week. I do that to unplug, and it really helps me level out for the weekend. By Monday, I'm ready to go back to work.
Yep,
so.
Exactly right. And I shared a post the other day on Reddit, and people were like the same thing. Why don't you just buy a bass boat? I'm like, I did have a bass boat. I sold it. I was like, I don't have the property tax. I don't have the insurance. I don't have the maintenance. And blah blah blah. Yeah. It's so much stress free when you go out there and go fishing now.
Yeah.
I used to make him long runs, and when James was on the show tonight, he'd tell you too. Me and him both would make these long runs way up the river. And you go up here and you catch a good limit, and you're like, man, I hope we can make it back. It's something in the back of your mind. What if his motor blows up, on the way back? Or I always have them thoughts. So
yeah, that with a complete stranger on Kentucky Lake for 90 miles, and there's a 20-mile-an-hour north wind, and that'll teach you.
yeah, you got to have a lot of faith in a man you don't know.
That's right.
But Troy, I appreciate you coming on, man. We're gonna get you, like I say, we're gonna get your organization on top of our site there, that we can direct people to you, and looking forward to seeing how things go for you for next year on the Pro Series, and also championships you got coming up this next couple weeks. So,
thank you so much. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate you guys. All you're doing for the sport.
Real quick, Jeff and Corey, give congratulations to Troy.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thanks, guys. You have a good one, Troy.
All right. You too. Thanks.
Bye. So, guys, I'll get that put up on my site. I'm going to get some more information from Troy. It'll probably be up there by tomorrow, and I'll get some more information from him and get that up on our website, and that's another great podcast to check out. So,